It was a crisp Sunday morning when Sam first stepped into the church. He had never been one for religion, but after the fire, the one that took his parents from him, he had felt a pull he couldn't ignore. Perhaps it was the overwhelming weight of grief that made him believe in something greater. Perhaps it was simply the loneliness, the need for some sort of solace. He arrived just in time for the service, looking lost in his neatly pressed suit. The congregation was already settling into the pews when Lydia, an usher at the church, noticed him standing by the door. "First time here?" she asked, her voice calm yet warm as she approached him with a welcoming smile. Sam nodded, his eyes scanning the room nervously. "Yeah, it's my first time. I'm not really sure where to go." Lydia's smile widened, and without missing a beat, she gently guided him toward a vacant spot near the front. "Don't worry, just follow me, and I'll make sure you're all set. You'll get the hang of it." Sam hesitated for a moment before following her. Her presence was oddly comforting, and for reasons he couldn't explain, it made him feel less out of place. As they reached the pew, Lydia gave him a quick nod, then turned to smile at the person sitting beside him. "This is Mary," she said. "She's been coming here for years. You're in good hands." Sam offered a tight smile, his nervousness melting slightly under Lydia's warm gaze. "Thanks. I appreciate it." The service began, and Sam tried his best to keep up with the unfamiliar hymns and prayers, though his thoughts wandered between the grief that still clung to him and the newness of this strange place. But every time his mind started to drift, he found himself looking toward Lydia. She moved gracefully through the sanctuary, assisting others, her presence a calming contrast to the turmoil in his heart. When the service ended, he lingered by the exit, unsure of how to leave without drawing attention to himself. That's when Lydia approached him again, her smile never faltering. "How was your first visit?" she asked. Sam exhaled a breath. He hadn't realized he was holding. "It was good, different, but good." She raised an eyebrow. "Different in a good way, I hope." "Yeah," Sam said, cracking a small smile. "I guess it's exactly what I needed." Lydia tilted her head slightly, her curious eyes locking onto his. "You don't seem like the kind of person who comes to church often. What brings you here?" Sam hesitated. His relationship with his parents had been complicated, but he'd never been one to talk about them openly. "It's a long story. I guess I just wanted something different, to find some peace, maybe." Lydia's face softened with understanding. "I get that. Life can be a lot sometimes. But sometimes a little peace is all we need." Sam nodded. There was something about her calm demeanor that made him feel like he could talk about anything, even things he had buried deep inside. Lydia's smile returned. "If you're free next week, I can show you around after service. It's always easier to come back when you know where everything is." Sam couldn't help but feel a flicker of warmth inside. "That'd be nice. I think I'd like that." The next few weeks were a blur for Sam. He showed up at church every Sunday, not only because he found comfort in the services, but because he found himself looking forward to seeing Lydia. Every time they spoke, there was an easy, effortless connection. One Sunday, after a particularly difficult week at school, Sam found himself lingering by the doors again. His studies toward becoming a chartered accountant were draining, and his mind was filled with numbers and equations that refused to make sense. Lydia noticed him immediately. "You look like you could use a coffee," she said, noticing the fatigue in his eyes. "Want to grab a cup after the service?" Sam was surprised. "You're asking me out for coffee? Lydia shrugged casually. Not a date, just coffee, to talk. He raised an eyebrow, then smiled. I could use someone to talk to. Sure, why not? The coffee shop was quiet, a small, cozy place a few blocks from the church. Sam sat across from Lydia, a warm cup of coffee in his hands. His fingers trembled slightly as he took a sip. So, how's the accountant life treating you? Lydia asked, breaking the silence. Sam sighed deeply. It's tough. I lost my parents a few years ago in a fire. I've been trying to figure things out ever since. School, work, all of it. Some days, it feels like I'm never going to make it. Lydia's expression softened, and she placed her coffee down gently. I'm so sorry, Sam. I can't even imagine how hard that must be. Sam looked down at his cup, feeling the weight of her words settle in his chest. I'm trying, but it's like every time I take a step forward, something else happens. I don't know how to do this alone. Lydia reached across the table, placing a hand over his. You're not alone, Sam. Sam met her gaze, his heart racing. There was something in her eyes, something sincere, something warm. I don't know how to thank you for everything, he said quietly. You've been so kind to me. I don't think I'd have made it through these last few months without you. Lydia's fingers tightened gently around his. You don't need to thank me. I'm here for you, Sam. Whatever you need. Months passed, and Sam's life slowly began to turn around. Lydia helped him study for his exams, offering encouragement when he felt like giving up. She was there for him when he received his first offer for a job at a prestigious accounting firm, his dream job. Sam knew deep down that without Lydia, he wouldn't have made it this far. One evening, as the church service came to a close, Sam pulled Lydia aside. His heart was pounding, his palms sweating. Lydia, I have something I need to ask you, Sam said, his voice unsteady. Lydia raised an eyebrow, sensing the seriousness in his tone. What is it? Sam took a deep breath. You've been my family through all of this, and I don't think I can imagine my life without you. I want to marry you, Lydia. Will you be with me forever? Lydia's eyes filled with tears, her hand trembling slightly as she cupped his cheek. Of course, Sam. Yes, yes. 1,000 times yes. A year. Lydia stood beside Sam in a church much like the one where they first met, their hands intertwined as they exchanged vows. Sam had achieved his dream career, and Lydia had been by his side through every challenge. To Sam, Lydia was perfect. In a world that had been nothing but cruel and uncertain, she had been his constant, his anchor, and he knew with everything in him that he would never let her go. As they kissed at the altar, Lydia whispered into his ear, I knew the first time we met, you were the one. And Sam, with tears in his eyes, whispered back, I've known since the moment you held my hand and told me I wasn't alone. Lydia and Sam had been married for 5 years, and while their life together was far from perfect, there had never been anything to cause Lydia to doubt Sam's faithfulness. She trusted her husband until one evening. It was a casual moment, nothing out of the ordinary. Lydia had gone through Sam's jacket pocket while hanging it up, a habit she had developed to keep his things in order. As she pulled out a crumpled receipt, a small slip of paper fell from it. Her heart skipped a beat as she unfolded it to reveal a hotel name and a date, 2 days before. There was also a note, looking forward to our next time. Exoxo. The realization hit her like a ton of bricks. Sam was cheating on her. The next few days were torturous. Lydia fought every urge to burst into Sam's arms and demand answers. She played the role of the perfect wife, making dinner, smiling when he came home, and asking about his day. He seemed distracted, his usual affection distant. But Lydia noticed and she filed it away. It was the Christmas dinner that sent everything spiraling. The day had started out like any other, but Lydia had hoped to make it special. Just the two of them. Maybe a candlelit dinner at their favorite restaurant. A toast to 5 years of marriage. She had even gone the extra mile, planning an intimate evening, reserving a table at their favorite spot, and dressing in the little red dress he always complimented her on. But as the evening approached, something felt off. Sam had seemed distant all day, constantly on his phone, talking in short bursts, dodging her questions. At first, she had thought maybe it was just a work deadline. He was always so driven after all. But as the clock ticked closer to the Christmas dinner hour, Sam's behavior shifted. He had made a weak excuse about needing to work late, something about an urgent project. He promised to be home in time for the dinner date. Lydia had smiled, though the pit in her stomach had only deepened. As the evening wore on, she couldn't shake the nagging feeling. She decided to do something she hadn't ever done before, something that had been lingering in the back of her mind for weeks now. She followed him. She waited until he was out of sight, then quietly got into a car. As she drove through the city streets, filled with beautiful Christmas lights and decorations, she couldn't help but feel a sick sense of anticipation. She knew what she would find, and yet part of her wanted to be wrong. Maybe he really did have to work. But the sharp sting of reality hit when she saw him. She followed Sam all the way to a posh downtown hotel.